Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is our Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni, as we welcome you back to the morning show. Emmanuel Efeni.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Tundu Victoria MKO Abiola.
Good morning.
Now let's start the review. But that was a good interview with Haya today. It's like a man with a mission.
Certainly.
And it's sound. I hope he finds his way into the corridors of power this time around. Well, that's just my own view. Now let's start the review with today's edition of This Day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. Now the lead story, Buhari talks tough, says suppliers of substandard fuel will be held accountable. Direct service providers to give information on consumed products. House wants companies involved suspended. Emadeb consortium fights back. Says NNPC claims misleading. Yes, the President Muhammadu Buhari, yesterday, of course, gave this directive to the relevant government agencies to take every lawful step to ensure the respect and protection of consumers against market abuse and social injustice. There's an agency that deals with consumer protection. Where is that agency? I'm sure that agency has a DG. Where is that DG? I think at this time, that agency should be in the forefront. But the president has given directive, although we know that some government officials have a way of flouting or even ignoring the president's directives. But not this time, I believe. This issue of adulterated fuel still buck passing, as it were. If the MD of NNPC, the group managing director, comes out to say, these are the companies that brought in this fuel into the country. Now everybody is fighting back. Not me, not me, not me. Who do we believe? Now, the House of Representatives is also wading into this matter. And they have called for suspension of all the companies involved. Now they also want to probe this matter. Yes, I will have welcomed the probe by the House of Representatives as an independent probe into this national embarrassment instead of NNPC conducting the probe. But again, with the House of Representatives, you never can tell. If somebody faints, somebody will shout off the mic, and that will be the end of that probe forever, as we have seen about the NNDC. So when I wasn't too enthusiastic when the House of Representatives set up a committee to probe this embarrassing situation concerning this adulterated fuel, as it were. But again, let's hope this time around they will be like Caesar's wife and rise above board and help us get to the root of the matter. But this situation with NNPC insisting these are the companies and the companies saying, no, we never did, Nigerians will wait a little longer to get to the root of this matter. But there are other stories also on the front page of This Day. Here from the window story above the masthead, CBN eyes $200 billion from fresh non-oil export initiative. Again, Apex Bank extends 5% concessional interest on intervention loans by 1 year. Plans to end FX sale to banks by year end. Diaspora remittances improve to $100 million weekly. Well, the CBN governor, yes, intervening again in areas, this time you say it's his area of core competence, but it doesn't really matter whether it's area of core competence. When the CBN intervenes in a sector, usually it's shaking, under the watch of Godwin Emefiele, the CBN governor. But let's just see how this, I'm sure the business analysts and the economists will have a lot to say on this in the course of our broadcast during the day. Now, let's look at other newspapers. The Guardian newspaper reporting, importers of dirty fuel must be held accountable. Buhari vow says, your comedy of anger, sorry, I take that again. Stop your comedy of anger, buck passing. PDP tells Buhari, reps probe NNPC, SON, others over sale of bad fuel. MRS, Emadeb deny involvement in adulterated fuel supply. NATO threatens strike, insists on rate review. Now, the Vanguard newspaper, the lead story also on bad fuel. Buhari reps talk tough, say heads must roll. Direct NNPC Limited to immediately suspend 4 firms identified as suppliers. Marketers bicker over accusation. MRS, Emadeb deny involvement. Now, if you say suspend immediately, 4 firms mentioned by NNPC, and these firms are saying, we did not import this bad fuel. Will that not be miscarriage of justice? Hence, we need proper investigation into this matter. Now, the leadership newspaper, Leadership Friday, as they call Friday edition, adulterated fuel. Blame game continues. Queues refuse to go away. Emadebs denies culpability. Producers, suppliers will be held accountable. President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, the Daily Independent newspaper, the same story. Adulterated fuel suppliers must be held accountable. Now, there's a Lagos-related story there, which I should just take. 2023 presidency, Sanwo-Olu urges APC leaders to unite for Tinubu. What else do you expect him to ask for? Now, the Daily Sun newspaper, the lead story, electoral bill. Buhari in dilemma, consults Malami, stakeholders, Middle Belt Forum, TMG, NCF. Others want president to assent. Our interests, not self-serving. Reps, that's the House of Representatives, replying, those who are saying the amendments they added were actually self-serving. Now, also the New Telegraph newspaper has the same story. Buhari in dilemma over electoral bill presidency. Says president in consultation to AGF, critical stakeholders. Electoral Act amendment done in national interest. Reps, re-amended bill, good, manageable for coming polls, says Jega. While the president is consulting, we also want to urge him once again to do so quickly so that the nation will know where he stands on this. But all entreaties is geared towards him signing this bill into law. If there are any issues, they can be further amended, but let's have one as a working document because it's also affecting the work and the preparation of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Now, if we look at the Punch newspaper, this is a sad one. Oyo bullion van robbers, Enugu gunmen, killed 5 policemen, others. Ibadan motorcyclists killed, commuters shot, hoodlums cut away cash. Motorists flee. 3 policemen manning Enugu checkpoint killed. POS man shot, woman abducted. Well, this is another sad day for the Nigerian police, who have lost 5 gallant men. 2 following bullion van in Ibadan were ambushed and attacked. They fought back, but of course they were outgunned by those hoodlums. those robbers who carted away some money. And in Enugu, policemen were shot at checkpoint. I think this in itself is something that is unbecoming when policemen become the target of these hoodlums. Now, the Daily Trust newspaper, CBN ends forex sales to banks, targets 200 billion from non-oil export proceeds. Naira for dollar policy rakes in $100 million weekly. New move will make banks, entrepreneurs responsive, experts are saying. Now, above the lead story, there's also another story in the front page of the Daily Trust. APC Reconciliation Committee fails to submit report 15 days to convention. Yes, February 26th is the convention day for the APC, the ruling party, but there's still a lot of division within the party, especially at the state level, where we have different factions staking claim as the authentic faction of the party. Will APC be more divided or become united after its convention? We'll see that in the fullness of time. The foreign newspapers quickly. Now the newspapers in the UK are all screaming about the resignation of Cressida Dick, the commissioner of the Metropolitan Police. Now, the Daily Telegraph, Cressida Dick forced out as head of the Met. Commissioner says Mayor of London left her with no choice but to quit. The story is also the front page of the Times of UK, scramble for new Met chief after Dick quits. Scandal hit commissioner lost support of mayor. And of course, the Guardian newspaper of UK also reporting this story adds some flesh to the reason why she had to go. Met police chief forced out toxic culture feeling. The Guardian newspaper reporting. Now, the London mayor loses confidence in leadership of Cressida Dick after series of scandals. Of course, issues pertaining to sexism and racism within the Metropolitan Police, which she has not been able to address. The first woman in 196 years to head the Metropolitan Police has had to quit because of what has been considered a failing. I hope nobody will say, we expect too much when women are at the top. I hope nobody will say that. But, of course, there are reasons.
I caught that look, Mr. Freddy.
It's not mischievous. Don't call it mischievous. It's not a mysterious look. It's just turning attention to you. Now, if we look at the Financial Times, U.S. Fed faces more pressure to act as inflation soars to 40-year high. CPI, that's the Consumer Price Index, rises by 7.5% in January, that's in the USA. Treasury yields jump. Biden tested as midterm polls near. Of course, the data released yesterday by the Bureau of Labor Statistics showed CPI surpassing economists' expectation by surging above its previous 40-year high to 7.5% on an annual basis. Ruben and Tundu.
I have to talk about Cressida Dick.
Yes,
I will
I know.
certainly not defend her because of her gender.
Yes.
I'm actually on the side of those who wondered why she was appointed in the first case because of her role in the 2012 awful police brutality case, the murder of Charles de Menezes, the innocent Brazilian, just making his way on the tube, who was shot 7 times in the head. And she was in charge of that operation. And she got promoted. She shouldn't have been in the first case. There have been a slew of just disasters from her. The Sarah Everard case, I'm sorry, she should have resigned at that point. That poor woman was arrested by a serving police officer who told her she had breached COVID laws, taken away. Well, so that she was not arrested. She was told she was being arrested. Really, she was being kidnapped. She was then raped and she was murdered. And then it was now exposed that this man, Wayne Couzens, had a history of misogyny. He used to send violent rape videos and rape jokes, although there's no such thing, to police WhatsApp groups, and he was never flagged. So there's that culture, and she did nothing. And then there were now protests in the streets. The protesters, did you see the harassment, the way they were manhandled by the police force, being led by a woman, Cressida Dick? And then even more recently, police officers in Charing Cross, more misogyny, more racist jokes. Police officers found a scene, a murder scene. 2 sisters had been stabbed to death. They took pictures of their bodies and were circulating them, making jokes. And she did nothing. So what finally caused the hammer to finally fall on her was her plans for reform did not go far enough for Sadiq Khan. She thought she could hang in there. Oh, lest I forget, Partygate as well, with Boris Johnson buying him time. Oh no, I'm not a fan of hers at all, just because she's a woman. No, it takes a lot more than that.
Yes, and of course, Sadiq Khan, the mayor told her, look,
she has to go.
You have to go. I don't have
And Boris Johnson did the same when he was mayor of London,
Okay, many of the newspapers in the UK or in London, in Britain, this morning, they wrote Cressida ditched.
Yeah.
Daily Mail has even a more dramatic, front page headline. It says Calamity Cassidy. Where I don't know whether, her tenure as the first female police commissioner has been calamitous. But what can be established is that it's been marked by a string of scandals, and Tunu has already identified some of those scandals. All of them grouped under allegations of racism, of corruption, of police brutality and abuse, and also ineffectiveness in protecting the system. Now, as at yesterday, she was still saying she was not going to resign. She said she was not going anywhere. But, okay, at what point was she pushed? Because she didn't want to go. She didn't want to jump. But apparently she was pushed. Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, having made it very clear that he has lost confidence in her. However, the thing we need to pay close attention to is that this is coming at a time when the Metropolitan Police is investigating 50 members, associated with Partygate, right? Including the Prime Minister himself. So what are the implications for that investigation? Will this create a lull in the investigation process? And how quickly will another, commissioner be appointed? So those are the related questions. The other thing has to do with the personal box that you talked about with regard to the importation of off-specification fuel into Nigeria. Earlier on the program, I think twice, I talked about how the MRDEB consortium, came forward to say, they are not affected in any way. It is Britannia U, a member of the consortium. And how yesterday we had pointed out that MRS had also said, no, don't look in our direction. Look in the direction of NNPC and its international trading partner, Duke Oil. But when you started the review of the programs, I saw that Britannia U has also kicked back. I saw an advert here at page 11 of this day newspaper titled Public Notice, Refuter that Britannia U was among the oil and gas companies that brought in off-spec PMS, that's petrol, in circulation. And then they went on and said they never imported off-spec products as claimed in publications, and that, it should not be linked with the off-spec fuel.
Yes.
Now that
in any case, the NNPC group managing director did not mention Britannia U.
No. It's part of the MRDEM consortium. MRDEM, Hyde, A. Malik, and Britannia U. They form a consortium.
So the consortium is now...
The consortium is disowning Britannia U. Britannia U is saying nobody should blame it, which is standard, Nigerian practice. There's nobody that...
It is standard Nigerian practice? I don't think so.
No, nobody ever accepts that they took the knife between they had the stolen yam. Okay, but I guess at the end of the day, the investigation that the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources has talked about will unravel the truth, in this regard, and that this will not be one of those cases that will be swept under the carpet, and that it is a good thing that the president is saying his administration prioritizes, the interest of consumers. I hope they get enough money at the Consumer Protection Council to be able to discharge that responsibility. Because, every government agency will say, well, we mean well, but what they have given us in the budget is not enough. Even if half of that goes into, the running of convoys and maintenance of
an extra cost
of privileges. Yes, you know it. Have you been there before? No. Okay. One other issue that I think we should also focus on is a story, I think, in about 2 or 3 of the papers about the Joint Committee on Aviation of the 2 houses, both the Senate and the House of Representatives, visiting yesterday the Murtala Mohammed International Airport. And what, that committee, there was Senator Smart Adeyemi representing the Senate, and Honorable Naji, I think, leading the House of Representatives. And both of them expressed concern, again, about the need to upgrade services at our airports. And they expressed concern also about the fact that, look, travelers are just kept waiting at these airports. Again, consumer interest, which the president was talking about. Sometimes a flight scheduled for 8 a.m. may not move until 8 p.m. And Smart Adeyemi was saying that, look, at a time when the roads are bad, the airports are also not reliable. So customers are suffering. And they resolved that they will come together and invite airline operators, which is what I find interesting about that particular report, to find out why is customer service so poor in the aviation sector. And they don't pay compensation.
The airlines
they keep you there. They tell you
for granted.
Yes.
They tell you it's the weather. I don't know why the weather is always bad in Nigeria. Or they say for technical reasons, this flight has been delayed for another 1 hour, for another 2 hours.
It's disgraceful.
So you have to go and get a mat.
In America,
to just lie down.
4 hours. If it's more than 4 hours, you can get $1,000 in compensation. They need to start imposing that in Nigeria.
Yes, Ruben, the last time I flew from Lagos to Benin,
yes,
it was built the flight was for 1 p.m. But I ended up making that trip at 4 p.m. I was supposed to be on my way to Warri. I had to sleep in Benin because it was already dark when I got to Benin.
For that? You had to be at the cost.
Of course.
And of course, what the lawmakers were saying yesterday, I think, is in line with what the NCAA Executive Summer Report for 2021 has indicated, that over 55% of flights in Nigeria in 2021 were delayed. If you delay over 55% flights, look at it in terms of cost, time wasted, opportunities lost, anguish, pain on the part of travelers. It has got to a point now that if you are going to the airport, you will be having anxiety.
You'll be lucky if it is not cancelled outright.
Well,
goodness.
And you have to return home instead of making your trip.
So I think it's an important point that we should draw attention to.
Yes, I agree with you totally. But of course, we have also ministers who are in charge of these, the airports, the Minister of Aviation, the Minister of Transportation. I think they should also pay attention to this, not just building structures and you make noise about the structures, but the services that's there, nothing to write home about.
The downtrodden Nigerian consumer.
Yes, important point in my view. Because it's not all of us that can charter a flight. I know. No. If you go to the airport, they delay you. You may just choose to charter a flight. Anyway, don't worry. I'm just pulling your legs.
Well, no.
Thank you very much,
Yes, thank you very much. Don't bother.
Thank you.
If you are rich, you are rich. There's no problem. There's no problem. You don't have to apologize for that.
No, she's blessed.
She's not a Dr. Abati.